All right, today we're going to be talking about tactics. The question I've been getting a lot recently, is my opponent lifts or my opponent does this. How do I know when to smash? How do I know when to drop? How do I know when to clear, right? And today we're going to be talking about a framework that I think a lot of like advanced and like higher level people, as they play the game more seriously, they kind of naturally understand. But maybe if you're not that far along your journey, or maybe if you don't really think as much when you play, if that makes sense, then this might be new. But anyways, this is a useful framework for anyone starting out. So let's take a look. So here's the framework. I'm going to explain it from left to right. So the left, as you see right there, is the net. And then directly underneath it at the very bottom, it says uncontrolled defensive situation. So that area is that all entire section. So all of that under that first line, past the service line, past midcourt, all the way back into the rear doubles court service line, all under this first like line. That's the uncontrolled defensive situation. And so what that means is, it's very hard to play anything with control. You were just lifting. You were just trying to survive. So let's think about this logically, okay? So right next to the very net, when would the shuttle usually land that close? Two situations usually. One, if they play a spinning net, right, and it topples over, so it's obviously going to be in that area right there. So what are you going to usually do? You are going to lift, because it's very hard to try to counter net or play a cross, especially in doubles. In singles you can get away with it sometimes playing a really good cross, but in doubles, no, you are basically forced to lift, right? And the second situation, if they play a really deceptive stop drop, right, and you're expecting a smash, so obviously your reaction time's a little late, and you're going to get to it very late, right? There is no point in trying to play a push or a net, because the front person is waiting and you're taking it so long, so they have so much time to react and intercept your shot. So again, you're being forced to lift. And of course, that continues to further on. So if, for example, at the service line, if you take it that low, and your racket's barely off the ground, yeah, you're still going to lift. In the midcourt, if, for example, they play like a deceptive slice, or they play a reverse like cross drive, whatever, again, you're taking it very low, you're lifting it. And then in the very back, the situation where this would most likely occur is, for example, they smash straight, and then you read it really well and early, and you cross drive it really fast to the other side. I mean, and then of course, right, the most common example of this is they're smashing from their overhead side. You forehand cross it, because we're all righties, we're assuming that. And then they're going to obviously have to take it on their late forehand. And of course, they're either going to play a forehand lift, like a late forehand lift, which is usually most common in doubles. If they get to it a little bit earlier, that could segue us into our controlled defensive situation. And there they could play a controlled drop to the middle, or like a forehand drive, right? So speaking of, let's talk about the controlled defensive situation. So for example, let's start again at the net side. If they play a net shot, but you take it really early, you still have options. You don't have to lift, right? You can push it to the side. You can push it back at them. You can push it past them. That's what controlled defensive situation means, right? And basically, this is where a lot of the skill in the midcourt game comes into, because as you can see, the controlled defensive situation is quite a big section, because at higher levels, you can take the shot lower and lower, and because the court is so wide, there's still many options you can play without having to lift. So for example, you can play cross, you can push it past them, you can play little pokes and jabs, right? And you can see in the midcourt, because you're in the midcourt, you can take it basically off the ground and still be able to play something that's not a lift. And that, of course, that goes in the back line, which we just talked about. And then midcourt situation. So midcourt situation is going to be anything at net or tape level, slightly above tape level, and slightly below tape level. And this is, again, where the drives are coming in, all the flat game, the pushes, the blocks, all of that. And for me, the main difference between midcourt and controlled defensive situation is, in midcourt, the trajectory of your shots should be going flat or downwards. In controlled defensive, they will be going up, but as soon as they cross the net, they should be dipping down. That's the main difference between the midcourt and the controlled defensive. Okay. Then we have constructive attack situation, and this is where most people are the most confused, and that's why a lot of people are asking, when they lift, do I need to smash or clear? So again, it depends. If the lift is really good and goes all the way to the back line, there's no point to do a full smash because you're just gonna waste your energy. The shuttle is gonna have slowed down a lot by the time it crosses the net and gets to them. So what do we do back here? We obviously don't clear because we don't want to give them the attack, but we play fast drops, we play slices, we play half smashes. We focus on placement. We try to force a shorter lift somehow. Okay, and as you can see, there's two sections. There's the constructive attack situation, and then there's the total attack situation. So if we can get into the constructive attack situation by playing well in the controlled defensive and mid-court situations, and then we can force a shorter lift, which would get us into a total attack situation. So think about it, right? Anytime that the lift comes short, right, mid-court or further forward, what do? The front court person goes to the side. They let the rear court person come to the mid-court. They jump as high as they can, and they smash it down the middle, right? There's no need for placement. There's no need for anything because the shuttle is so short, it's very hard to react to the smash, right? And then, of course, if the backcourt player plays a good shot and then the front court player intercepts it, a shot that would have normally gone all the way to the back, but they catch it at the front in the total attack situation, what happens, right? They just hit it down as hard as they can. So I hope this makes sense. This was a very useful framework that I came across like very early when I started playing badminton. And honestly, like it doesn't go away. Like this doesn't only apply to beginners, or this doesn't only apply to intermediate players. This is something that if you understand, you can take this and essentially use it for the rest of your career, however high you go, even into like top 100, top 50, top 10, whatever. This is just fundamentals. This is just frameworks. If you guys have any questions about this, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to try to answer it. But yeah, I hope this was interesting.